Today is much different than it was even 20 years ago. Children face more problems in school, society, and even their family lives. Many students have been interviewed about how they feel about certain topics in education, but in this documentary, we will be exploring the opinions of the teachers in our school district. Journey with me as we discover what the teachers feel and think about the hot topics from religion in school to violence and bullying.
I'm April Herndon. I teach 5th grade science social studies, and I'm at Kings Mountain Intermediate.
My name is Amber Nichols. I'm the principal at Cleveland Early College High School. This is my 5th year being there as principal.
What made you want to become a teacher?
I have always loved children. I remember one of my fondest memories was getting a chalkboard for Christmas one year, and I propped my chalkboard up and talked to all my stuffed animals. I had a neighbor friend who was a 1st grade teacher at East Elementary, and she gave me the retired textbooks, so I thought I was the stuff. But I've always loved teaching kids and just being with kids. I've always thought that that was my ministry, is working with students, and high school seems to be my niche. That grade level is probably my favorite.
In the very beginning, when I was really young, the only reason I wanted to become a teacher was because I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was the only option for a job at the time, that I could still be kind of a stay-at-home mom and still have kids. That was what was in my mind initially when I went to college. Well, when I got into my college classes and I got to be in an educational setting, obviously my purpose changed. So my purpose in becoming a teacher was, I saw it as my mission field.
Do you believe teaching is a rewarding career?
Most days, yes. I do. I think you've got to look for the silver lining on certain days and certain weeks, but I definitely feel like it is very rewarding, especially when you get an email from a past student saying, you know, I really miss you, you made a difference in my life. Like that's kind of stuff where teachers who are having hard weeks or hard years, like that's what we live for.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anybody really goes into teaching for the pay. I think it is a passion. I think it is something that you love, and when you see the first light bulb pop on, or you see a kid just really be kind to one of his peers, or you see how they are respectful to all those great things, that's so rewarding, and no money can replace that.
How do you typically punish a kid who is misbehaving?
Well, being at the early college, I see that very few and far between. So that is one blessing by being there. But we do have a code of conduct that we follow, and I think that that is important because it's important to be consistent and fair throughout the school. So depending on, at the early college, we have the freedom to kind of differentiate in our punishments. So if we try to match it, so if it's messy related, then they clean up. If it's student related, then they need to reflect, because we don't have ISS at our school. So I think reflect and see, why am I acting out? What is the root of the problem? Am I really mad at this person, or something going on in my life? And so I think reflection is a huge part of that, is having the students sit down and think, okay, why did I do this, and how can I change so that I can be, the student that I'm expected to be.
The first time they would misbehave, I always pull kids out in the hall to speak to them about their misbehavior, and is there something that I'm missing? Is there something going on at home? Like, is there a reason? But there's always a reason behind it. Whether you agree with the reason or not, there's always a reason behind the misbehavior. So is it something that I can help with? Are you hungry? I keep snacks in my room all the time. Are you having a personal need? I keep personal things in my room at all times. I'll pick up like extra backpacks, extra clothes. We have a clothes closet if there's something that I don't have. Is that why we're misbehaving? Are we trying to get home and get out of school? Is it something going on with the home life? Is it somebody's been bullying you, or somebody's been saying something to you at school? Is it something that I can help with? If not, then we have counselors. When it becomes a perpetual problem and there's no way that I can help, and they're not giving me a reason for that, then that's when you have to pull the admin in, and it becomes more severe.
Have you ever taught a student who was being abused at home? If so, what were some of the signs that you noticed that led you to believe something was going on, and how did you handle the situation?
Okay, when I was, 16, and I worked at Kids Etc. For the summer program before I'd even started teaching, of course, before I even graduated high school. I did notice that a student, it was in the summertime and it was so hot, and he just continued to wear jeans. And I thought that was odd because most kids were wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and he just had long jeans every day. And so one day we were out at the swing set and at the playground, and he was swinging, and he fell on his knee, and it wasn't a hard fall, but he just started crying hysterically. And I took him inside, and another teacher, watched the rest of the students, and we went to go clean him up. He was like, no, leave my pants down, leave my pants, and so that to me was a major red flag. Why do you not want me looking at your legs? And then when I pulled his pants leg up, his mother had sewn up his knee with red thread. But that was very astounding, and so of course I immediately reported it to the director, alerted social services and things of that nature. I've had to call social services several times, not too many, praise God, because it is our responsibility to report if we suspect anything, or if a student comes and tells us of something. It is our responsibility.
I have taught kids that have been abused at home. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different signs depending on the different types of abuse. When you see like physical abuse, there's like the common things that you would see, like the bruising, and then the emotional things like withdrawing. I feel like with sexual abuse, a lot of times it can be stuff as, I say simple as withdrawing, or it can be a very distinct smell that you've learned over time, unfortunately. And as a teacher, you smell that and you look at your teammates going, there's something going on here. Behaviors, when you see a normal child will go in for a hug, and I'll hug back, and that child will react differently. When they come in for a hug, they'll react differently. So it's just very distinctive with different kids, and then it's very different with other kids.
In your experience, how have school shootings like Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Douglas High School changed the classroom atmosphere?
Yes, I do think it has changed. I think that those shootings, and sadly we continue to hear of shootings. I think that has created a ton more awareness in our district. With all of those shootings, we have upped our security. So we have parole officers that will come through the schools now. We are very cautious to keep all of our doors shut. There is only one entrance, and things of that nature. We have security plans, we have safety plans, we work with our resource officers.
I'm not sure from the kids' perspective. I think they're subjected to graphic nature of stuff everywhere, where I almost think, and I don't think all kids, I think most don't even think thought about it. With teachers, it has definitely changed my way. I'm constantly running through situations and scenarios in my head. I'm constantly looking out the window and have the shades, turned. I constantly am checking my door to make sure it's locked. I'm constantly making sure my office is picked up so I know that I can fit 28 kids in there. I don't use that as storage. I use that as, can I fit 28 kids in here?
After a school shooting, do you fear going to work, or do you sense that the children fear going to school?
I don't know that I've ever feared going to work. Once again, it's one of those, I know where I'm going. I guess I fear for the kids and the tragedy that it would be and the imprint that it would make on them.
No, I do not fear coming to work, and I don't think that our students do either. I think that anytime we have the Code Red drill, that always brings emotions to it, but I think that for the most part, everybody maybe feels even safer because of the extra precautions that were put in place.
Do you believe teachers should be able to carry firearms on campus to protect their children?
Absolutely not. No. I think that we are emotional people and passionate, and there are just too many things that can go wrong. And I worry that, I know we have resource officers in the buildings for a reason, and other types of security who are armed in case of an emergency, and so I don't feel that that would probably be what is best. Or the responsibility of having that. I don't know that staff, maybe some would be okay with it, but I think that's a heavy responsibility for staff as well.
I do not. I just don't feel like, one, that we have the funding to get the appropriate training. Mm-hmm. Two, I feel like we are in a very high stress situation, and I feel like some teachers would take that and do something that they'd regret later.
How often does your school have a lockdown drill, and do you believe that is enough?
We are required to have one once a year. We have started doing one a semester. That has been suggested and at different times so that students, are in different situations, different areas of the building. We do, however, let them know ahead of time that it is a drill because, like I said, it does bring up lots of emotions, but it helps when we're in different locations. Where do I go? What do I do? And kind of talking with the staff about that. Actually, one of my staff was watching the front desk. Well, the button to let people into the school and the panic button are close to one another, and she unfortunately hit the panic button, and so that immediately went off. But within seconds, my teachers had swept the hallway, swept the restrooms, gotten everybody in the classroom, locked the doors, and within 40 seconds I already had campus security. There were several policemen that had pulled up. The rescue squad was there and a fire truck. But that, although it was frustrating and I hated that wasted resources and everybody was on high alert, it was reassurance that, okay, if something happens, people are going to be here.
It's once a year, and honestly, since COVID, we haven't really done it like we should probably. With the COVID, they're like, well, let's just, while you're having the lockdown, don't go in your office, don't put all the kids in your office, just explain to them what's going to happen if we go into lockdown. I get it, but at the same time, this is a real threat nowadays. So I feel like we do need to practice that, but do I feel like it's enough? Are we ever prepared?
What do you feel students struggle with the most, and what would you change to help them?
I really don't even like the word. I don't like bringing it up, but COVID really, I feel, did a number on a lot of our students' mental health, social, emotional, learning. I think that, we're getting back to where we were, but I think that we forgot how to socialize. But I think as far as a whole, I see a lot of mental health situations, whether that be panic, depression, suicidal ideations, anxiety. That is probably the biggest situation that I see for our students. And we are very, very lucky because we have a therapist on the CCC campus who will come down and see our students, or they can go up and see her. And I feel like every school needs a mental health clinician in their building to help with this, because counselors just can't do it all. They have so much on them, and then to meet the mental health needs of the students, I think, is just one more thing. And so if we could somehow, if the money would fall from the sky and we could hire a mental health clinician in each school, I think that would be the perfect solution for that.
That's a hard one. I think kids are going through so much stuff right now, but I feel like it's us as a society and the parents that could take part of that away. I feel like kids are on way too much technology and way too much social media, and they're on games where they can chat with people they don't know, and they're being openly available to stuff that we would never, at my age, would never have been subjected to. And so I don't know that there's anything I could change as a teacher. I do feel like the parents need to step it up and quit using social media and gaming as a babysitter, and to be more cautious about what your kids are doing. I personally do not feel like Any child that I teach at that age needs to have access to internet on any phones. I understand why they have a phone, especially if they're in a divorced family where they want to have access for mom and dad at all times. I get that. I feel like the nonstop picking on from other students when I was in school, it would stop when you left the school.
Yeah.
Now it's happening all day, every day, the wee hours in the morning. Parents are like, oh no, they don't use their phone, they plug it in at night. Well, where is it? In their bedroom. You really think they're not on their phone at night? So it's like constant, I don't know, it's just constant. They're just constantly dealing with stuff.
What do you feel is the biggest issue in education in America today?
Probably apathy. I feel like you've got a lot of students who just maybe don't care. And I think a lot of that is brought in with the mental health. Like they have no motivation, they are tired, they just don't want to do it, and there's no reason why. I've talked to many of my high school students who are have either failed a college course or close to failing, and I'm like, what's going on? All you have to do is turn in this. I don't know. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And so there's just this sense of, there's this lack of motivation that if I can do it from home, if I can just get by, then that's what I'm going to do. So I think that's a big challenge for teachers, is to engage those students, and that's why it's so important to build relationships with your kids, so that you're talking to them and you know where they are, you know where they stand, so you can help them.
The lack of accountability, lack of consequences. Us as educators and even administrators have our hands tied, and the kids know there's going to be no consequences. So they just keep doing what they're doing, and they keep doing worse and worse and worse, and there's nothing we can do.
Have you noticed a change in students' mental health since the pandemic? If so, do you think schools could do anything more than they already do to provide mental health support for students?
I do think maybe the mental health has gotten worse, and what I'm about to say may not come across right. I feel like so much emphasis put on mental health that even the kids that don't have mental health issues are finding mental health issues that they don't have. But as far as our school has a full-time, they're employed through Integra, and they do in-school therapy.
When made aware of bullying, do you feel like harsh enough actions are made to stop it?
That is very tough, because when bullying happens, well, first, I think that some students don't understand the definition of bullying. There can be rude people, rude remarks made, or there can be bullying where it is a consistent behavior. And it's important that if students, one, that they bring the issue to us. A lot of times I'm the last one to know. Well, I told so-and-so, talking to all these friends, but a lot of it is just he said, she said, or she said, she said. And so we need witnesses to deal with that. So I think once we have all that stuff, I think that our punishment fits the situation, but oftentimes, unfortunately, it's just one person versus another, and so those cases are very hard to prove. Bullying is frustrating, and I think that's why it is important for students who witness that to also be bold enough to say, hey, this is going on.
I feel like in the education setting, when I have a parent contact me and say, my kid got bullied today and you did nothing about it, I said, I want to sit there and give them the definition of bullying. Yeah. And I feel like that word is used way too much. I do believe bullying is an issue. Absolutely. I do not take that lightly. I believe it kind of goes back to the last answer that with the punishment, and we got our hands tied with consequences. So our administration at our school personally does take it very seriously if it's truly bullying. We do our best to separate those kids, to keep an eye on them. If they're in the same class, we make sure they're at the end of the line and the front of the line, and we keep our eyes on them, or we transport them ourselves where they're not around the other people. So I believe we're doing everything that we can do in the education setting to help with that, yes.
What is the biggest obstacle that you personally face every day?
I don't know that I have a huge obstacle because I feel like if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, you know? And so I know that weariness can be an obstacle sometimes. Sometimes I get very tired, but for the most part, I love what I do.
The lack of accountability, I would say, on the kid's part and the parent's part. So when you're caught, an example would be when you call a parent and say, your child did such and such. I, more times than not, get, well, what did you do to make my kid act like that? I don't have time to pick on your child. Mm-hmm. I'm letting you know a situation that happened, and I'm touching base with you before it becomes a big issue where there's going to be administration involved and there's going to be worse discipline. So I feel like the accountability, and they will talk like that in front of the children. So if the children know the parents aren't supportive of the teachers, then the students aren't going to be much better in our class.
As a teacher, would you recommend parents to homeschool their kids if they are able?
I think if that is their desire and they have the resources to meet the students' needs, then yes. I have seen homeschool done really well, and I have seen homeschool not done so well. And so I think that you do miss, of course you miss the social piece of that. But I also understand that parents want to raise their kids with their morals, and especially if they're Christian parents, you know, have a Bible class and raise them with God's Word. And so I'm totally fine with that as long as they have the resources they need.
Mm-hmm. It depends on the child. I believe that homeschool is great if it's great for you and your family. Mm-hmm. And I believe that public school is great if it's great for you and your family. With both of my kids, one would have done great homeschooled, one would have not. We actually looked to our second, my son, to homeschool him because he had a really hard time after the pandemic going through high school and his 8th grade year. We did look at homeschooling, we looked at co-ops, we looked at private schools, and we really prayed about it, and we just felt like we weren't being led to do it. And honestly, if I had homeschooled him, I think he probably wouldn't have made it to 18. Like if I wanted to get somebody else to homeschool him, it probably worked better than me. Mm-hmm. But if somebody wants to homeschool, if it's done right, then I believe that it's a great thing. And I believe public education, I grew up in public education, my husband did, my kids did, and I think they turned out fine. I think the issue is you want to put your whole foundation of your morals and ethics and biblical whatever onto the public school, but when they're at home, you're not teaching them what you want them to know. If you're teaching your kids a great foundation and you give them the tools to be able to handle that situation, then I believe that they're going to do the best they can in public school.
Do you believe teachers should be able to talk about Jesus Christ and their faith in school?
This is hard, coming from someone who loves Jesus very much. I want to. And anytime a student, kind of my policy, if they ask a question or they open the door about prayer or anything, then that gives me the go ahead to jump in and to talk and to, you know, reference the Bible and things of that nature. What I worry about as a principal is if those things are allowed, when does it stop? Will I have to allow witchcraft? You know, other religions, because I would, to be fair. And so that is the hard part. That is the hard part that I struggle with, because I would love nothing more. And I feel like teachers who are Christian, principals, any type of educator who's in the system, that our actions should show that. There should be no question. That's kind of where I am. It's difficult because I worry about opening the can to
I understand
other things.
I do openly. I think if you asked any of my kids in my classroom, they would tell you that they know exactly where I stand. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like some kids, that's the only place they'll ever hear it. There's also the flip side of this. Some people would say, well, if you're able to talk about God in school, then your next door neighbor who worships Satan should be able to talk about Satan in school. There's a flip side to that. Would I want my kids sitting in a class where they're sitting there talking about worshiping Satan and how well is no, I would not.
In America, most schools start teaching sex education in 5th or 6th grade. Some schools start as early as 4th grade. Do you think that is too young to teach a kid about sex education? Do you think schools should teach it at all, or should it be left up to the child's parents?
I think if you left it up to the parents, it wouldn't get taught. But I also know when we say that we have our puberty talk in 5th grade, I know what's being said there. So they split the boys, they split the girls, they talk about like menstrual cycles, they talk about maturing and what's happening during puberty. I feel like at 5th grade, I feel like that's appropriate for that age group. I also feel like they know a lot more than they should, and sometimes that information is not correct. Me as a parent, I want to be the one to educate, and so I made sure with my kids before I knew that they were having health talks or puberty talks or something, they already knew it from me. And I said, do not believe what your friends say. If they come to you and it sounds silly, come to me and ask me. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd rather you come to me and me teach you than have your friends teaching you something that's not true.
Yes, I think that's way too early. It stresses me out a little bit. I don't think they should be knowing about those things yet. Sadly, they do. And that's what's so sad. We have a policy that we teach sex education in our health 110 class. And we have a policy that I send a letter home so that parents can say, my child should not be part of that. So parents get the say, because I think that's important. Parents should be able to raise their children and establish the morals that they want them to have. And so if a parent decides for a child not to participate in that, then they'll have an alternate thing they can sit out.
On top of the core classes, do you believe high schools should teach classes on how to pay bills, how to pay taxes, how to budget, how to manage debit and credit cards, social etiquette, basic first aid, and other similar topics?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now it's like we're so set on standardized testing and passing that standardized test that we're forgetting about the life skills that these kids don't have. And I feel like when I was growing up, or your parents were growing up, that age, you were taught how to do everyday things. Now, these kids aren't taught. So I feel like, yes, it would absolutely be helpful.
Yes. In fact, North Carolina has required an economics and personal finance class. So that helps with taxes and fraudulent activity and credit and, the different budgeting, things of that nature. So now that is implemented, that is very helpful. I do think more basic first aid should be taught. I know that every student has to have basic CPR knowledge before they can graduate. What I would love to do, as even early as middle school, but definitely with your freshmen, there needs to be some type of class to how to properly write an email, how to, address your teacher. I know that I received an email from a 9th grader, hey Amber, how's it going? No, that's not what we do. And so it was just one of those, okay, this is a teachable moment. And so I called the student and I was like, this is how we write an email. It's not like that. So, yes, absolutely. And I would love to see that, especially in middle schools, but enforced more as a freshman.
Do you think all schools should recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the school day?
I was confused when I first got to the early college and we didn't. And so I thought that was just what we did. And so for 2-3 years, we never recited the pledge. And then I was talking to some teachers, and Miss Champion was one who was like, why do we not do this? And I said, I don't know why we don't do this. And so we have started implementing that. So that is now, our crews have different assignments each month. And so if they are assigned the Spirit Read, they're also assigned the Pledge of Allegiance that month. So we start every day with the pledge and a moment of silence.
Have you noticed any discrimination in school based on gender, race, or religion?
Over my years, I would say yes, but not like with who I teach with. Like my teammates and stuff, I've never had that discrimination. And I know people say, like, I see their color and I see their race and I see, I see all that, but I don't really think about it. I don't linger on it personally. I had one girl who I knew she had some tendencies in the way that she kind of talked with her friends and stuff. And so I just kind of had in mind, like, you know, maybe her lifestyle wasn't really what I approve of. And she came to me that school year and she said, Miss Herman, can I talk to you in the hall? And I said, sure. And she said, I just want to tell you that I'm gay. And I said, okay. And she goes, are you mad? And I said, no, I'm not mad. And she said, well, you've made yourself perfectly clear on where you stand with certain things. And she said, I just didn't want you to be mad. And I said, I will ask you if you told your parents. And she said, no, I'm scared to. And she said, how do you think they'll take it? And I said, well, as a parent, I don't know how I'd take that situation. You know, I said, I would definitely pray my way through it. And she goes, do you still love me? And I said, yes, I still love you. Mm-hmm. I absolutely still love you. Why would I not love you? Yeah. I said, do I approve of your lifestyle choice? I do not. But that's for me to deal with. And I said, I will be praying for you just like I always have. I still love you. Come to me and tell me you need to talk. Please come to me. I mean, what good is it going to do to go, you know what? I hate your lifestyle and you're not.
Yeah.
What kind of Christian am I to sit there and say that to her? Mm-hmm. Do I approve of it? No. Am I going to live that kind of lifestyle? No. But I'm going to love you through it.
Yeah.
So, do I personally discriminate? Do those directly around me discriminate? No. Have I seen discrimination? I have.
Sadly, yes. I do see that on actually all of the things. If you are Christian, then you're a prude. If you're transgender, people will look at you. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of situations out there. People will make racial remarks. A lot of students think that they're joking by saying those things, and it is important that we teach them that it's not funny, that that's not a way to joke. So yes, I do notice that there are some things, and anything that is brought to my attention or that I see, it is addressed.
Although teachers, students, and parents may have differing views, ultimately we need to work together and realize that although our opinions may differ, what is most important is that we create the best educational foundation for our children.